Star Wars Empire at War Awakening Rebellion has finally got a big update. But there's one feature in this update that completely changes how you play Galactic Conquest. So in today's video, we're going to be looking into what this feature is, how it will affect your gameplay, and why it's for the better. So without any further ado, let's dive right into the video. So here we are in the 2.9.3 press build of Star Wars Empire at War Awakening of the Rebellion. So I'm going to be jumping into a single player and a Galactic Conquest. You can pick any Galactic Conquest if you like. I'm going to go with the full campaign, normal for demonstration purposes, and going for Empire. Now, this feature does change a little bit depending on what faction you're playing, whether it be Rebellion, Empire, so on and so forth, and I'll get into that a little bit later on in the video. So let's jump right into our game. So as we load in, you can see the change immediately as soon as you hit Coruscant. So what we're looking at here is we're seeing the tech levels change in a very big way. So much so that it'll change the way you play each campaign separately. So what I mean by that is if we look at the old version of the Awakening the Rebellion, we know we have the standard tech level build up from 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. And you can build separate shipyards to build specific ships on that planet. Here, it kind of changes in a big way. And if we come back and look at the UI here, we have 3 different tech levels, all saying 1 on each of them. The first one, we have the Imperial Global Space Tech Small Craft 1, then it's the Medium Craft 1, and then we have the Warships 1. Now, we could go into all of the text and data here for each one of these. I'm not going to. I'm just going to give you the short version. Essentially, you can choose where your credits go in terms of research. So before, you had to spend credits to research on everything, whether it be fighters, frigates, warships, capital ships, so on. Now you have more say on where your credits go. So if you want a much bigger fleet that has star destroyers and generally big ships to put a lot of fear into the galaxy as well as your enemy, you can do so. But if you prefer to work in a more agile and nimble way, you can work with fighters or small crafts like frigates and so on and so forth. And there's definitely different ways you can approach the enemy depending on how they've built out their tech level. So for example, if the enemy has gone for warships, we could go for, medium craft 1, and it shows us here, it unlocks the Star Galleon, Talcon Falcon Carrier, Imperial Global Space Tech Medium Craft 2, and then all the others that come with it. Just a load of carriers and frigates and so on. But what these can actually do is we have a lot more nimble ships that can rotate around, much bigger enemy warships like capital ships, and take them out from behind, take out the engines and get out of there, so on and so forth. So it really can boil down to which way you want to play. Now, of course, if you do build one of them, don't worry, you can build all the others, but there will be a tech level behind. So if you are really passionate about how tech levels worked previously in Awakening Rebellion, fear not, you can kind of follow the same way by just doing it one by one from one tech level to another, and then you'll have a broad level of fighters, frigates, and capital ships. So you'll have no strengths, but you'll have no weaknesses. So this is why it's so interesting in Awakening Rebellion, because you're creating a fleet that has these specific weaknesses that you have to defend against the enemy, which they might take advantage of, and you'll also have these strengths that obviously you can use against the enemy, whether it be with big warships and tons of firepower. But if they come at you with a lot of advanced fighters, you might find yourself in a bit of trouble. And that's not the only thing that's changed here as well. The AI treats teching up quite differently. So for anybody that's very familiar with playing Awakening Rebellion, you might notice that the enemy hasn't exactly teched up right away. The AI likes to tech up almost immediately and get better ships as soon as possible. But depending on what difficulty you're playing now, will depend on how soon or how fast the AI will start their tech level 2. We don't know what tech level they be working towards, but they'll give you a bit more breathing room to decide on where you're going to go, which side of the map you're wanting to attack, and so on and so forth. But in the high difficulties, it's relatively the same. The AI will start pressuring you almost immediately. Now, unfortunately, it's not as simple as it looks. We still have the specific shipyards you need to build, as well as those specific tech levels for you to actually unlock those ships. So what I mean by that is, if you're very familiar with Awakened Rebellion, you can see that we have to build these shipyards, or dockyards, excuse me, that you can see here. We've got one specifically for advanced cruisers, we've got one for advanced fighters, so on and so forth. So when you actually do the tech up, we've just finished our medium craft 1 build. You also need to build the advanced dockyard that's associated with that tech level. Now, this is a press build. I don't know if they're going to change that for the final version, but if we take a look here, I've got the medium craft 1, and it can show what we unlock with that first level, which is the Star Galleon, Tonfalk Carrier, the Imperial Globe Space Tech, medium craft 2, so that's the next stage up. And then it partially unlocks other ships like Tonfalk Carrier, advanced loadout, bomber loadout, fighter loadout, and all these other ones, as well as the final tech level, which is tech level 3 for this specific area of ships. So when you do that, you need to have the correlating dockyard, which we built here, which is the Imperial Advanced Cruiser Dockyard, and it shows what you can unlock as well. But if you think you can get away with just building a dockyard, I'm afraid that won't work, because if we go ahead and take a look over here, if we hover over the Gladiator Star Destroyer, which we've unlocked because we built the advanced dockyard, we can also see here at the bottom of the description, it says here, inquires the Imperial Global Space Tech Frigates and Cruisers 2, which we haven't unlocked yet. We need to build that up next, which we have available because we built the first one. So now that I've shown you what the Tonfalk escort carrier needs to be built, I can go ahead and go to my shipyards and then actually remove the medium craft 1, and we can see how the Tonfalk can no longer be built. So here I can actually build it. Once it's gone, it's gone for good, and the availability for it is gone. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of how you need the tech level specifically for the frigates or the escort carriers, as well as the shipyard alongside it. Anyway, now that I've explained all of that to you guys, we can actually build like the Tonfalk escort carrier, default loadout, and all the other ships that was associated with the research that we put into Medium Craft 1. Now, again, this will be completely different if you want to go for capital ships, and I'll show an example for you guys a little bit later on in the video, but it gives you an idea of how you can create your own fleets according to what the game desires you to create, or what you specifically want to create for your faction. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shift over to the next faction, which is Rebellion, and show how it's pretty much the same, but a little bit different. So here we are starting a Rebellion campaign in Awakening Rebellion. And if we go over to Mon Cala, we can see, again, the 3 tech levels that you can upgrade specific to the fleets that you want to build. So again, Small Craft 1 for the New Republic, frigates and cruisers for tech level 1 on that one, and then you've got Mon Calamari Warships 1. So having a quick look at these, the first tech level for the warships, unlock MC-80 Freedom, Alliance Global Space Tech, Mon Calamari Warships 2. So it only unlocks 1 for the first tech level, and then moving over to frigate and cruisers, it unlocks Bulk Cruiser Carrier, Twin Blade Frigate, Alliance Global Space Tech Frigates and Cruisers 2, and then the small craft is U-Wing, Cutlass, Squadron, GR-75, Fleet Tender, Alliance Global Space Tech, Small Craft 2. So that's pretty much it for Rebellion and the Empire. It's pretty much the same for the other factions as well. So really, that's how it's going to change your way of playing the campaign in general. So you could have 3 separate campaigns where you just like tech up all the way with Smallcraft 1 as fast as possible, and see how you can handle the AI who might end up going warship. And then again doing it for the frigates and what was it, the frigates and cruisers 1, and then again doing another campaign with just warships. Of course, this only goes up to tech level 3, so it's not a thing that you can keep building up all the way throughout your campaign. You will have to tech up the others, but it really dictates how you're going to be working your early game, if not the majority of your campaign anyway. And yeah, you can really use some very high-tech fighters or cruisers that can take down capital ships, depending on if you know how to play correctly, because Awakening Rebellion can be quite a tough game at times. So that is pretty much the feature I wanted to bring to your attention. It definitely is something new that we haven't seen in many other Empire War mods, and the reason I wanted to make a video specifically on this feature is just how it's a relatively small change, but does a lot in terms for the gameplay. Whilst it's, you know, kind of sounds a bit strange to split the tech levels up into 3 different sections, and then it maybe, does it cost more? Does it take longer to tech up? They're not too long. I mean, they do have different tech times. So if we take the Smallcraft 1 here, it techs up in about 3 minutes and 21 seconds, but the others are 4 minutes. Now, this might be different on the Empire. I'll have to check back on the recordings, but yeah, so it doesn't take as long, as far as I know, than the regular tech ups that you have to do in Awakening Rebellion. But ultimately, it's a very interesting change, and I'm excited to get into my first proper galactic conquest with this feature. In terms of when it will come out for all of you watching this video, there's not really any idea yet, but when we do get that information, I will certainly make a new video on that. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you won't miss out on that video. But besides that, guys, that's where I kind of pass the question over to you guys. What do you think about this change? Do you like where Awakening Rebellion is going with this change in terms of space tech levels? It is a very big change for space combat and campaign management in general, much like the resource management feature that Thrawn's Revenge added in their 3.1 or 3.2 update. I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions on how this would affect how you play the game, how you want to play the game with this feature, and any other concerns or interests you might have about splitting these tech levels up into 3 different sections. But besides that, guys, I've been Charlie, you've been watching EcksToo, and we'll be making more Awakening Rebellion videos very, very soon. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.